In my presentation today, I want to briefly sketch a picture of the arc of NFTs in the museum world, illustrating some of the tipping points in this fascinating story, and then to throw out a thought or two about what happens next. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. The relatively brief story of NFTs in the museum world has been significantly shorter than the arc of NFTs in the art market, which in turn has been shorter than the wider NFT scene for other collectibles. It was colorful and of great significance culturally and technologically, but like fireworks, NFTs exploded and then faded, rather, in the museum world, leaving museums a bit shaken, a bit inspired, but mostly empty-handed, and probably a lot wiser. We all know where the story started. It started for museums in the same place that it started for everyone else. Like many other early enthusiasts, museums understood little about NFTs at first, beyond promises of astronomical financial returns. They were encouraged to dive into the high-risk crypto market, hyping not only instant wealth, but also so-called immutability of records and promises of automated artists' royalties. The possibility of having a life-saving income stream from something as simple as selling a digital image of a collection item meant that some museums simply could not afford to resist. Institutional and financial ethics were sometimes drowned out by headlines and strong pressure from tech platforms and potential donors. Following last summer's crypto crash, the hype melted down significantly, and some of those museums that rushed into NFT deals with commercial partners are reconsidering their involvement in the market. And not only museums. Others rushed into the hyped world of NFTs. Some rather rashly and innocently. I don't want to say ignorantly, but innocently, thinking that they could make a fortune off of a ceramic bowl pulled out of the family closet. So museums weren't the only ones who stumbled into this. Other rather famous names did as well. Nothing ever came of this Picasso project, by the way. I'll repeat the story of the Uffizi Gallery's NFT. In May 2021, the Uffizi Gallery partnered with the tech company Cinello and made headlines by ostensibly selling an NFT of a Michelangelo in its collection, the Donitondo. What it actually sold, however, was a full-sized, high-resolution reproduction on a digital screen in an ornate carved frame linked to a minted NFT containing what it called certification of museum authentication. In other words, what it really sold was a very expensive framed digital museum poster. The Uffizi eventually admitted that the company they partnered with and the platform that they used took most of the proceeds. The museum made 70,000 euros from the so-called NFT, which sold for 240,000 euros. As a result, in fact, as has been mentioned, the Italian government has since instructed its museums to stop contracting with NFT companies, citing unregulated terms that could affect the country's cultural heritage. Perhaps the most memorable reference to a museum's attempt to exploit the NFT mania may have been this headline: "The British Museum demeans itself by selling its works as NFTs and will probably live to regret it." The British Museum had sold reproductions of Turner and Hokusai works as NFTs, something that art critic Bendor Grosvenor criticized, writing, "Sure, you can call your Turner NFT art if you like, but only in the same way a £5 note is art because it has a portrait of the Queen on it." To make matters worse, La Collection, the commercial partner for the British Museum, claimed that each NFT is associated with a certificate of authenticity signed by the art institution that owns the original work. Now, this statement raised the eyebrows of many art historians because Hokusai's The Great Wave is one of the most widely collected 19th century prints in the world. The idea of buying a super rare edition token, which is nothing but metadata, of one of these thousands of prints in the public domain sounds questionable at best. The point is that to market limited edition NFTs of public domain works is to confect scarcity where none actually exists. Original impressions of Hokusai's print, The Great Wave, are in private and museum collections around the world, and several museums offer high-resolution digital files of it, freely available for download and unrestricted reuse by anyone, anywhere. The problem in museum speak is this: nonprofit public trust organizations, cultural heritage institutions, boards of directors, and employees are entrusted with maintaining authority, reputation, and community trust in their institutions. There's still a great deal of uncertainty about what NFTs can do for an art museum's primary goals, since they are essentially metadata, not works of art. They are metadata files only, not works of art. And digital artwork that can be displayed is separate from any NFT, connected by metadata, but separate from any NFT that might happen to be associated with it. Relying on NFTs to raise cash can be risky, and the boards of directors of museums may decide it is inappropriate for their charitable organization to own them. That means museums may be forced to quickly liquidate any NFT they mint or receive. Governments other than Italy's have started taking notice. In the UK, a new law is being considered in an effort to deal with some of the more serious issues involved in crypto and NFTs. To no one's surprise, digital art attracts digital art crime. And criminal activities superficially concerning NFTs can and does, unfortunately, hide money laundering, human trafficking, and drug networks, making them potentially even more problematic for public trust cultural institutions. Museums need to decide whether monetizing their existing collections would in any way undermine public access to the collections, potentially violating their missions and accreditation. In addition, proceeds from sales tied to the collection need to be reliably and ethically reinvested. That creates the risk of items in the collection being treated as financial instruments. Financial instruments, meaning that they are generating income rather than as works on display, physically or online, for the public. In addition, the environmental damage associated with NFT mining, runs counter to the stated collective intention of museums to reduce their carbon footprint and work towards sustainability. The instability and opacity of unregulated cryptocurrencies and the cost, both in money and in trust, are all cited by museum professionals as reasons for hesitancy. The liabilities of a risky, unregulated market are simply not the sort of thing a public trust institution can ethically accept. On a more positive note, however, it does remain to be seen whether NFTs are perhaps better suited to creating new opportunities in virtual museums, in the metaverse, in other words. It wasn't only museums, by the way. Some artists resisted. On his website, artist David Hockney posted a clear warning that he was having nothing to do with NFTs and inviting someone and inviting anyone who found one online to report it. Rather interesting stance. Now, to get to the subject of the blockchain and provenance, one of the promises of NFTs. NFTs were supposed to provide a so-called immutable, authoritative, and irrevocable way to record and track the provenance of works of art and other goods on a blockchain. Two rather obvious points spoil the party, however. First, there is nothing preventing the recording of false or incorrect information in NFT metadata. The word immutable means unchangeable, not indisputable. If there is a falsification or simply an error in the NFT metadata, it cannot be corrected. The NFT would have to be burned, as it's called, and another NFT minted to supersede it, meaning more minting fees and more possible environmental damage. Secondly, nothing prevents an NFT platform from going out of business and shutting down its servers, wiping out everything on them. The other big promise was that of artists' resale rights or artists' royalties. Now, artist resale rights exist in Europe and several other countries by law, in the copyright laws. They do not exist in the United States. It was tried, but it never passed legislative, it never passed into legislation. So for American artists, this was a big promise. One thing NFTs accomplished was to raise awareness of digital art and artists, and the difficulty of digital artists making money from their digital art. Buying NFTs linked to artworks was imagined to be an opportunity to interact with and support individual artists. Artists themselves believed the promise of downstream royalties reliably appearing every time a token was sold on the promised secondary market. This would be a radical new revenue stream. However, that secondary market has mostly failed to materialize, especially post-crash. In contrast with David Hockney's statement against NFTs, as it were, the American artist Frank Stella, for example, was enthusiastic about the possibility for NFT technology in this regard, suggesting that they may be a way for artists to seize the resale rights that he want us to have. But unfortunately, this has not worked out as promised. It turns out that a very small percentage of all art-based NFTs minted have actually sold, mostly for an average of $200 or less, and that is before paying fees. In addition, automatic secondary market royalties depend on that specific executable metadata being built into the NFT in a way that cannot be circumvented. Inevitably, that doesn't always happen. Because blockchain addresses are often not publicly or verifiably tied to the names of real individuals, scammers have set up addresses on the blockchain purporting to be established artists and then minting and selling NFTs. One scammer impersonating Banksy sold $900,000 worth of NFTs before the real artist Banksy alerted the platform to the issue. And decentralized networks offer no clear remedy for purchasers who are unable to reclaim their cryptocurrency in cases of forgery. So is there a future for NFTs in museums? One thing that became clear as a result of museum's brief and colorful romance with crypto hype was the stark difference between the freewheeling techno art market and the standards-based ethical and legal obligations of the museum community. Significantly, the International Council of Museums, ICOM, issued 2 new standards in March 22 to complement its ethics for museums. These were new standards of accessioning and standards on fundraising. They emphasize that, and I quote, museums have the duty to acquire, preserve, and promote their collections as a contribution to safeguarding heritage. Their collections are a significant public inheritance, have special position in law, and are protected by international legislation. Museums should consider also whether a prospective object has any special requirements for preservation or storage that would make its maintenance difficult or impractical for the museum in the future. In other words, that is basic collections management and security, which is problematic in the case of NFTs. Excuse me. As one curator of digital art put it, American museums are nonprofit organizations that work in the public trust. This means that legally and morally, they are bound to move carefully, not out of ignorance, but out of responsibility. Because the NFT market is based on asset trading, profiting by reselling assets or flipping them, as it's called, it may not be the appropriate tool for building permanent collections, much less a reputation for stewardship. Already, it is almost impossible to appraise NFT'd works for insurance, collections management, or donations. In addition, cryptocurrency and NFT markets run up against anti-money laundering regulations. For example, in the UK since 2020, these regulations have applied to art market participants involved in transactions worth 10,000 euros or more. This might not apply to transactions involving digital art, but that has yet to be determined. But no museum anywhere is comfortable with the remotest proximity to the phrase money laundering. Regarding any possible uses of blockchain technology or NFT tokens in the context of museum audience engagement with works of art, one is reminded of traditional tokens of engagement like postcards from museum shops and that icon of student dormitory rooms, the museum poster. Both of those are tokens of emotional engagement. The question is there a real advantage to engagement via a risky scam and malware-infested digital trading market, just because it is new, answers a call for digital transformation, can be accomplished on a cell phone, but is actually only metadata? Possibly, it's possible. But I leave the challenge of addressing that question to others. NFT technology is here to stay in one form or another. So I want to end with a provocative quote from New York-based art advisor Lisa Schiff. In this fan-based economy, art no longer has to be experienced physically or be historically contextualized. In fact, the object itself no longer matters, leaving only an image that signifies potential profit, nothing more. This should be an urgent call for debate. The potential death blow to the traditional mode of value making should be of serious concern to anyone who wants to defend the true essence, power, and ability of art to inspire, educate, incite agency, and remind us we are human. Thank you.